This story is not about ambition. It's about what happens when ambition becomes identity. About what happens when success stops being something you want and becomes something you need in order to justify who you are. Because once your worth depends on power, every moral limit starts to feel optional. That's where Macbeth begins. Not as a monster, not as a tyrant, but as a man who is already unstable inside. He is respected, he is praised, he is brave. And still, it isn't enough. That dissatisfaction matters more than any prophecy. Because when the witches appear, they do not give Macbeth commands. They don't tell him to kill. They don't tell him to act. They don't even tell him how. They give him something far more dangerous: possibility. They show him a future version of himself that feels larger, clearer, more complete. And Macbeth's first real decision is not murder. It is imagination. Instead of rejecting the prophecy, instead of dismissing it as nonsense, he mentally steps inside it. He pictures himself crowned. He pictures the certainty of being chosen. He pictures a version of himself that no longer doubts. This is the moment the trap closes. Because once you believe you are meant for something greater, accepting an ordinary life starts to feel like failure. That's why this play escalates so quickly. Macbeth does not slowly turn evil. He accelerates. He writes to Lady Macbeth, and that letter is not a neutral act. By sharing the prophecy, Macbeth invites judgment into the idea. He exposes his desire. Lady Macbeth immediately understands what he will not admit to himself: that the ambition already exists. She does not create it. She refines it. She reframes hesitation as weakness, morality as fear, patience as cowardice. She never argues that murder is right. She argues that not acting means Macbeth does not deserve the future he imagines. This is crucial, because the pressure in this play is not external, it is internal. Lady Macbeth becomes powerful because she gives voice to what Macbeth already believes. When King Duncan arrives, the choice becomes real. Macbeth knows exactly what killing Duncan would mean. He lists the reasons not to do it. Duncan is his king, his guest, a good ruler. Macbeth understands consequence. This is not ignorance. And that's why the decision matters. When he chooses to kill Duncan, he does not choose power. He chooses identity. To walk away would mean admitting that the vision of himself as king was an illusion, that he imagined too much, that he is not exceptional. And that is unacceptable. So he acts. The murder works. Macbeth becomes king. And immediately, the fantasy collapses. There is no relief, no peace, no sense of arrival, only anxiety. Because power gained through violence does not stabilize identity. It intensifies insecurity. Macbeth cannot enjoy being king because he knows it is borrowed. And that's why Banquo becomes unbearable. Banquo is alive. Banquo heard the prophecy. Banquo represents the future Macbeth was promised, without the crown. But more importantly, Banquo represents moral restraint. A man who hears the same temptation and refuses to corrupt himself to reach it. That contrast is intolerable. So Macbeth makes another decision. This time, Lady Macbeth is not involved. There is no debate, no persuasion, no hesitation. Macbeth hires murderers. This is a turning point students often miss, because this is where Macbeth proves he no longer needs influence. Violence has become procedural. Banquo's murder fails partially, Fleance escapes, and from a strategic perspective, this matters. But psychologically, something else matters more. Banquo's ghost. This is not about superstition. This is guilt made visible. Macbeth cannot escape what he has done, no matter how much authority he holds. The public breakdown exposes the truth. Power has not freed him, it has trapped him. Lady Macbeth tries to manage the damage, but something has shifted between them. Earlier, she suppressed conscience. She denied emotion. She believed control was strength. Now, she is losing control. Guilt does not disappear when ignored. It waits. It leaks. It returns in repetition, in sleepwalking, in fractured language. While Macbeth externalizes violence, Lady Macbeth internalizes it. And both are destroyed. From this point on, the violence accelerates. Macbeth no longer kills to protect power. He kills to avoid reflection. Macduff's family is slaughtered not because they threatened the throne, but because Macbeth has learned to solve discomfort with brutality. This is what tyranny looks like before it becomes political. It is psychological first. Macbeth returns to the witches, not to seek truth, but to seek reassurance. The prophecies he receives are conditional and ambiguous, but Macbeth does not question them, because certainty is addictive. As long as he believes he cannot lose, he does not have to confront what he has become. This is where fate becomes an excuse, not a cause. Macbeth chooses to believe the version of the prophecy that protects his identity. That is why inevitability in this play is self-constructed. When Macduff finally confronts him, the illusion collapses instantly. The rules Macbeth trusted no longer apply. And in that moment, we see what remains. Not a hero, not a visionary. A man who has exhausted every meaning except survival. Macbeth dies having gained everything he wanted and lost everything that made it worth having. This is what Shakespeare is testing. Not whether ambition is dangerous, but what happens when ambition replaces moral identity. Blood matters in this play because guilt cannot be washed away. Sleep matters because innocence cannot be recovered. The dagger matters because violence always arrives first as an idea. And here is where most students go wrong. They describe influence instead of responsibility. They say Macbeth is controlled by Lady Macbeth, by the witches, by fate. But Shakespeare never removes choice. Macbeth chooses imagination. Macbeth chooses action. Macbeth chooses repetition. That is why the tragedy matters. Because Shakespeare is not warning us about villains. He is warning us about ordinary people who let success define who they are. Macbeth is not destroyed by wanting power. He is destroyed by needing it. And that is why this play still appears on exams. Because ambition does not ruin lives when it exists. It ruins them when it replaces identity.